Howdy, folks. Welcome to Storytime. I'm Murph. Man, I love that theme song. Don't you just love it? Big thanks again to the American Wake for allowing me to use their song Hold On as my theme song for Murph Storytime. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you probably didn't see episode 8, the regular version of it. So I would recommend you go back to listen to it. It was released on March 3rd. Because this special edition of Murph's Storytime is all about that episode. Chapter 1 is done. So episode 8 is the first part of Chapter 2, the Morning Report of the Lands. So this edition is going to be a little different. It's going to have some interrupting commentary. This edition is about, for those of you who like the behind-the-scenes stories, the little tidbits, the little secrets that go into making something like this. So if you're interested in that, that's what this special edition of Episode 8 is all about. Again, if you haven't listened to Episode 8, I would recommend that you go back and watch it and listen to it, and then come back to this edition. So let's get into it. It's time for us to visit Episode 8 of The Lands. A 1 and a 2, and away we go. Welcome to The Lands. Episode 8, Chapter 2, The Morning Report, Part 1. Quote for today's episode: "Well, it's a new day. Let's make the best of it. Let's keep the spirit alive." The Governor. Queen Kwan was standing over the sleeping young man on her storeroom table, tilting her head while looking at him as though it might help her recognize who he was. "Whatever were you doing out there in Hubland?" she asked him. "Did you party too much at Lily's show tonight?" She tucked the blanket in a little tighter around him. "That table can't be the most comfortable place to sleep, you know what I mean?" Just then Captain Hobogon came through the curtains into the storeroom. "Well, I see our guest is still asleep," he said to Queen Kwan. "Oh, goodness, Captain. It's only been a few minutes. He could be out the rest of the night." "Well, I suppose you're right, Queen Kwan. I had Tom take Peter to get checked out. I sent Victor to go start his morning report, so I guess it'll just be the two of us standing guard tonight." "Oh, I could get some coffee started if you like, Captain." "Well, that would be wonderful, Queen Kwan. Nothing like a good cup of coffee when on a late-night stakeout." "Oh, that's exciting," Queen Kwan responded. "I've never been on a late-night stakeout before." "Well, I used to do it all the time, with my extensive training as a big-game hunter and a private investigator," Captain Hobogon answered. Queen Kwan rolled her eyes as she started brewing some coffee. "Queen Kwan, were you at Lily's concert tonight?" "Oh, yes, it was most fun." You didn't happen to see our little friend there, did you?" Queen Kwan thought a moment. No, I don't recall seeing him, but I was wondering if he had been there as well. Maybe he partied too much, you know what I mean?" "Well, that's what I was thinking as well, but I don't recall seeing him either. But then again, there were a lot of people there. I guess we can add that to the list of questions we can ask him when he wakes up." "Well, that's going to be a long list," Captain Hobogon said as Queen Kwan handed him a cup of coffee. He took a sip. This will definitely be a great help as we wait." And wait they did. King Michael sat on a bench in the castle courtyard. His mighty castle was to his back. In front of him was his kingdom. From this view it looked so massive. All the other mini kingdoms lined the cobblestone road leading out towards the carousel. The sun was just beginning to dawn, so the sky was 3/4 dark, 1/4 light. A shiver went through him. Something told him that today might just be a 3/4 dark type day. He stood and walked a few feet, then couldn't resist the temptation to look to his right. There it was, outlined by the waking sky, the big white mountain. He gave a big sigh. Oh, how could I let you go? He muttered. You did the right thing, Cat said, materializing on a fence that surrounded the dwarf's mine. You did what you had to do in order to keep peace. That mountain is ours, and it will be again, Cat said. He jumped down from the fence and walked over to King Michael. He gave him a bow, then approached closer. Your Highness, there was no sign of... Cat looked around to make sure no one else was there. I know who you're talking about, Cat. You don't need to say. If he's not here, then where could he be? King Michael, the writer, was in the group that met with him. The writer? Why would the writer... Is it possible? Is it possible the writer has taken him? Very possible. That is the next logical choice. But why? Why would the writer want him? Well, the writer is an ancient one, sir. It is possible that they had a plan for him, one they opted not to tell us about. Cat, I want you to contact the writer and find out what happened. I want a full report by lunch. Yes, sir. I will attempt to contact him immediately. Cat paused for a moment. I was able to spend some good quality time with Prince Sean this morning, Your Highness. Your Highness, you may consider spending more time with him. He is growing, and he has many questions, and he wants to know his father. Cat, he knows his father. Well, he knows who his father is, but I am not sure he knows his father. King Michael knew Cat was right. He hadn't been spending much time with his son. Seeing him made him miss the rest of the family. Okay, I'll try to spend more time with him. He looked up to the dark sky above him. I'll be waiting on that report, Cat. There is one more thing, sir. Yes. Cat looked around as he moved closer to the king. King Michael sensed that what Cat wanted to talk about must be of importance, so he knelt down to be closer. When I realized the search was going to be fruitless, I had the prince drop me off by the canal so I could check the little village. Yes? You'll be happy to know that progress is moving along on Operation Little Tunnel. King Michael smiled. Finally, some good news. How far have they gotten? Using previous benchmarking and from data collected, they feel they could reach said target in a matter of days. King Michael stood up and clapped his hands together. The sound echoed in the empty courtyard. He composed himself quickly. That, my friend, is excellent news. You know, I thought today might be a 3/4 dark type day, much like it is now. But now, he looked towards the big white mountain. Now I'm thinking it's a 3/4 sunny day. Thanks for the good news, Cat. He bent down and scratched behind Cat's ears. Cat gave out a loud purr. You just made my day. I will contact the writer and meet with him, and I will see to it you receive the reports from the earlier incident in the neutral lands as well. Yes, all right, fine. And keep me apprised of the operation, will you? Yes, sir. The king gave him a smile, then headed back inside the castle. Cat walked over to an anvil that had a sword plunged in the middle of it. He hopped up on top of it and stared out into the kingdom. As Cat sat on the anvil, trying to take in the events of the last few hours, something caught his eye. There was movement out past the stables of the carousel horses, by the pond of the elephants. He crouched down on the anvil as he looked intently over in that direction. Someone was standing over there, looking at the pond. It was still dark, so he couldn't tell exactly who it was, but he thought it might be the professor. He jumped off the anvil, turned invisible, and scurried around the stable and through some bushes. As he came out the other side, he could see the figure a little better, but still couldn't tell who it was since his back was to him. But the person was just standing there, holding the rail that surrounded the pond and just staring. Cat still couldn't recognize who it was, but was pretty sure it wasn't the professor. As he approached, he could see that the person was wearing a long purple robe and a wizard's hat, and he had a very long white beard. Cat then knew who it was. It wasn't the professor, but someone who he hadn't seen in a long time. He lifted himself up, cocked his head, and materialized. "Merle," he said to the man. The elderly man turned slowly and looked at Cat. It was Merle. The cat was surprised to see him, and how old he looked. Merle was once the advisor to the king, serving both King Ronald, King Michael's father, and King Michael. He turned away from Cat and continued to stare at the pond. "Merle, is everything okay?" Merle nodded. His long white beard was dirty and matted. The white hair that stuck out from under his hat was much the same. Cat was taken aback at how sad and bloodshot his eyes were. He stood stooped over, gripping the rail as though he would float off if he let it go. Cat jumped on the rail and balanced himself. The rail wasn't that thick, and falling over would put him right into the pond. He crept towards Merle, stopping by his left arm. "Merle, do you need me to get you some help?"
"Do you remember the flying elephants?"
Merle asked. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't spoken in a long time. Cat was very surprised by the question and had to think for a moment. Yes, I remember the flying elephants." There was a pause. Cat waited for Merle to say something more, but he didn't. Cat looked at the pond. Beyond it were the stables where the elephants used to live. They were gone now, and Cat realized that he had not thought about the elephants for some time. "You know, Merle, they were a huge expense." He looked up at Merle, but there was no change in his expression. His white face contrasted the darkness of the sky behind him. So much so that it actually gave Cat a shiver, like Merle was some sort of walking zombie. He looked away and continued. "Elephants are very expensive to maintain." The silence continued. Cat felt sorry for Merle. He seemed so lost, so forgotten. "Merle, do you need me to get someone to help you back to your tower?"
"I miss the flying elephants,"
Merle said, his eyes looking even sadder. He let go of the rail, turned, and began a very slow walk towards the castle. He extended his right hand in the air, and his walking staff appeared out of nowhere. Cat jumped, almost falling off the rail. The magic surprised him. He figured Merle had nothing left in him, but then, wham! His staff appeared. Merle used the staff as he walked ever so slowly towards the castle. Cat watched him for a bit, worried that he might stumble and hurt himself, but he didn't. He then turned his attention back to the former lodging of the flying elephants. He really hadn't thought about those elephants for a long time, almost like they had been erased from his memory. What was even scarier was, for the life of him, he couldn't even remember what happened to them. Ambassador Bradley marched along the sterile white hallway leading to the landing where he could catch the mover, which was a continuous moving transportation system that moved around Techland. It was a great way to get from place to place, except if you were in a hurry, and the ambassador was in a hurry. He just heard some news that he didn't like, news which turned even more of his blonde hair gray. He bypassed the ramp leading to the landing area and went outside. The sun was just rising and the streets were quiet, so he could move swiftly to Director Jacalian's office. If what he heard were true, that they had captured Princess Natalie, heir to the tribe of the Western Territories, then his job just got increasingly more difficult than it already was. He was just a few yards from the ramp leading up to the carousel building, which is where Director Jacalian's office was, when Agent Clayton stepped around the corner in front of him. "Out of the way, Agent Clayton," Ambassador Bradley said with very little patience. "I have to meet with Director Jacalian, and I don't need any of your foolishness." "And what, may I ask, has you all up in arms, Ambassador Bradley?" "My understanding is that Princess Natalie may be in our custody. Is this true?" "Oh, Princess Natalie is inherent in tranquility." "What does that mean?" the ambassador said, wishing that Agent Clayton would just leave him alone. "She's fine." "So we do have her." He put his head down, trying desperately to remain calm. "Do you know what this is going to do? As the ambassador of Techland, I'm going to have to explain to everyone why Princess Natalie is being held captive here. This is a disaster. Was this your doing? Ambassador, I am not partial to your timbre. My what? Your tone. Then why not just say tone? Just say what you mean. The ambassador stopped when he thought he heard music. It sounded like a choir of children singing. He looked at Agent Clayton, who had a stupid-looking grin on his face. The choir started getting louder. They were singing about the size of the world and how small it was. The ambassador closed his eyes and concentrated. He knew what was happening, and he was going to stop it. He concentrated real hard, and the music began to fade away. Your ability will not work on me, Agent Clayton, he said. I, too, understand the spirit. Agent Clayton smiled and opened his right hand. In it were 5 round objects. They looked like candy jawbreakers and ranged in size from a marble to a meatball. Ambassador Bradley took a step back. Don't even think about it, Agent Clayton. Agent Clayton flashed a grin and shook his hand. The objects flashed with bright colors. One was yellow, another blue, another green, one red, and the last one orange. They were bright, like they were being illuminated from somewhere inside. The ambassador took a couple more steps back. Agent Clayton, I warn you, I will report this. Agent Clayton dropped his right hand, but the round objects stayed floating in the air. The ambassador turned to run. Agent Clayton spoke to the floating objects. Breakers, proceed! He pointed in the direction of the fleeing ambassador, and the breakers flew after him. They spun as they flew in a straight line, hitting Ambassador Bradley in the back of the head, all 5 of them in the exact same spot. The ambassador put his hands on his head, covering the spot where they had just hit. He looked for somewhere to go inside, but everything was still closed up. Meanwhile, the breakers flew up, round, and came back down on him in formation. Bam, 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 bam! All 5 of them hitting him right on the forehead. The force nearly knocked him down. He spun around as the breakers went up above him. Agent Clayton, stop! But he didn't. The breakers had now separated and were hitting the ambassador in various places. On his head, his ear, his neck, his nose, and his jaw. The ambassador swung his arms around, but couldn't hit them. He was staggering around, blood coming from his head. The red, meatball-sized breaker hit him squarely in the chest with such force that it knocked the wind out of him. When he opened his mouth, the blue breaker, which was the size of a pinball, flew into his mouth and went down his throat and blocked his windpipe. The ambassador struggled to remove it, but couldn't. The other breakers continued to hit him until he fell to the ground. He tried for one last gasp of air, then died. The breakers floated above his head, waiting. There was movement in his neck, then his mouth opened and the blue breaker flew out. The other breakers flew around it, cleaning the saliva and blood off of it. Once they were done, they flew back over to Agent Clayton and came to a stop right in front of him. Agent Clayton put out his right hand and they dropped right down onto it, back to the lifeless white color they had started with. Adequately accomplished, he said as he closed his fist. Ambassador Bradley, nobody cares what you think. I'm just saying. He smiled and headed towards the lagoon, leaving Ambassador Bradley's body to be removed with the rest of the trash. We interrupt this episode for a little interrupting commentary. And here to help is my little bro Tim. Yahoo!
Yahoo! Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Murph Studio North.
Yay!
Yay! So we're going to give you a little commentary about what you just listened to. Hey, young man, he's now he's still asleep. He's in the back of Queen Kwan's store, so they transported him from Hubland, from the lush green grass. It's gone down Merchant Valley, and now he's in Queen Kwan's store, and he's...
And I think Queen Kwan was correct. I think dude was partying it up too much.
Whiskey helps, you know.
Whiskey helps.
Maybe he was. You know, that sounded like it could have been a good party, but...
and we weren't invited.
Well, episode 1 would have been like 3 hours long.
4 hours.
4 hours. We'd still be in chapter 1 right now. We're in that... Got invited to that party.
Or it'd just be...
we'd be passed out. You'd hear the story like this. No, I think that's just an example of Queen Kwan throwing ideas out there about what's going on, and like she brings up the Janir tree, or actually one of the soldiers, someone brings up the Janir tree, that maybe he was connected to that, and that would explain why he's forgetting things. And of course, Captain Hobogon shoots that down right away. He doesn't want that.
Captain Hobogon, he knows everything about nothing. He just keeps on. I know about that.
Well, because he does have extensive training in many different fields.
And extensive training in nothingness.
He's actually based on someone that I knew who was trained and did a lot of things. So I just thought
fun
that would be
conversations.
Oh
there.
yeah, I did everything, knew everything. Yeah.
I was a Navy SEAL astronaut.
Yep. So so that's going on there in the storeroom of Queen Kwan's store, and then you had the castle courtyard conversations with King Michael and Kat, and then Merle shows up.
What?
Yeah, what's that all about?
King Michael just obsessing over the White Mountain.
The big White Mountain. He likes the.
I think he and the passed out kid were like partying together. Yeah, he's like a White Mountain.
Tim.
Okay, Jess Donner. Hey, there's Jess there.
No, you find out what his obsession with the big White Mountain is, but there is a little bit of a reference there, maybe Easter egg, if you want to say that, about a certain White Mountain changing lands at some point. Historical nod, I suppose. But yeah, he is affected by all these things he's missed and he's lost, but that's the one thing he is obsessed about. So, but you'll hear a little more about that actually in this episode.
I'm slightly obsessed with mountains.
You're just yeah. So we had the big White Mountain, and like you said, we had Merle show up. How he got down from his tower bedroom, and
poor Merle. I think Kat stole Merle's job, just like cats, because they're sneaky. Cats are sneaky.
No, Merle just he was the advisor to King Michael, but he got older, and you hear I talked about that scene that I cut out where Kat and Michael met, and you see that bond that is created there, and how much Michael really relies on him and trusts him. So when Merle got old enough to that point where he could no longer do it, Kat just kind of filled in. Now, did he push him out? Mm-hmm. But you'll also see.
Probably did.
Well, I don't want to
sneaky.
Say too much.
Trust the dog.
But Merle and the Spirit are very kind of trust the dog. No. But no, I don't think Kat stole it from him or anything like that. So, so that scene is a really a good scene. I like that where Merle is down there and he starts asking questions that you're going to hear. Before it was him saying something is happening. Now it's, you remember the elephants, the flying elephants. So,
oh yeah,
you remember the flying elephants. So, anyways, also we saw an interaction between Agent Clayton and Ambassador Bradley.
Agent Clayton's a flagging jerk.
Language, please.
Okay, just Donner.
Well, don't be a Gary.
Meow.
That was an interesting scene, and again, I'd mentioned in other commentaries that I kind of went there, and I try to make one of my guidelines. The guidelines.
There's Eddie's guidelines again.
Is I like there to be some action in every episode, so that was the action for this episode, I guess.
Yeah.
So
he is the Agent Clayton is a jerk, but the breakers are cool.
Well, the breakers kill Ambassador Bradley.
That's why they're cool.
Yeah, they are kind of cool, actually.
Plus, they remind me of the Jawbreakers we used to get at Easter.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what they're based on. Were the Jawbreakers they used to sell at candy store. We used to get these giant Jawbreakers, and that would take me like months to eat, and Tim would eat in like 4 days. No, 4 hours.
He's got the big mouth.
My big mouth is for tackling. His big mouth for eating. And those Jawbreakers were great. In fact, I just saw like a giant, I don't know where I was, if it was on our Route 66 trip, but I kid you not, that Jawbreaker was like the size of my head. And
that's ginormous.
That is ginormous. I think I took a picture of it. I don't know where that was.
But that's for a whole different...
Yeah, that's a whole different story, the Route 66 trip. But yeah, so the breakers obviously are based on Jawbreakers.
And because that took me back to good old Easter. And
to get Jawbreakers.
Are there Easter eggs in this one?
Easter eggs? Yes.
Well, they're fun to spot.
Yeah, they're actually in the courtyard, the castle courtyard scene. There are at least a dozen Easter eggs or references, as I like to call them.
References, guidelines.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Some are obvious. There might be one or two that aren't so obvious, but yeah, definitely in that scene there's and then the whole episode. Yeah, there's probably about 20.
If I was able to pick up on most of them, if you missed them,
some of them are obvious.
You need to pay attention.
You need to go back and listen to it
it.
again. Yeah. And see if you can find all the little Easter eggs.
And comment on the ones that you found.
Yeah. Comments, please. Jeez Louise. Well, we got more to listen to. So, in fact, these next two scenes that you're going to hear are OG scenes. They're original scenes.
Original that we never get to know.
Well, I like to tell you when they're original scenes. These next two are OG scenes. So, let's get to it. A 1 and a 2 and away we go. Let's open the book.
Open the book.
Young Joe ran his usual route along the riverbed, thinking of just about anything that would take his mind off his life. Not because it was so horrible or anything, but because it was so dull, and his pre-dawn jogs were meant to wake his mind up, not put it back to sleep. His life consisted of nothing more than working on his aunt's ranch, caring for sick animals, tending the crops, and sleeping. That was it. On rare occasions, he may go into town, where the fun took place, but that wasn't often enough. There was always work to be done. He knew the Western Territories were the most exciting place in all the lands. Unfortunately, his aunt's farm was on the very far edge. Very far from the fun, very far from the action, very far from anything resembling a life of excitement. His morning ritual took him across the ranch to the river, where he would follow it south towards the main town. He didn't dare go north, for that would take him towards the tribe, and that area was strictly off limits. Sometimes, just to get a quick thrill, he would start towards the tribe, daring himself to keep going, to see if he could get involved in some action. But then he'd turn back south, depressed with his lack of adventure. In his head he could see the look on his Aunt Lucy's face. It would be one of her, "Now don't go do anything to cause any trouble" looks, or maybe one of her, "Now look at all the trouble your foolishness has caused me" looks. Either way, it wasn't something that young Joe would want to deal with. He continued his run, looking over at the beauty of the river, when suddenly he came to a screeching halt. For there, at the bank of the river, was the most beautiful horse he had ever seen. It was standing there, drinking the water that washed up in front of it. The horse seemed to be panting pretty heavily, which led young Joe to believe that it may be injured. He crept over to it ever so quietly. The one thing he did not want to do at this point was startle it, for off it would go as quickly as it could, if he did. He reached to his side and unhooked his rope, which every good ranch hand kept with him at all times, or so his aunt constantly reminded him, along with many other things. He slowly made a lasso with it, then took aim. The horse stood straight up, as if it sensed something. Young Joe knew this was his opportunity. He swung the rope over the horse's head and made a direct hit. The horse didn't like that one bit, and off it ran. He held tight to the rope as the horse tried to run through the bushes, but it had nowhere to go. It stopped, turned around, and stared young Joe right in the eyes. Young Joe heard a voice in his head. "Let go or die." Young Joe held on to the rope with one hand and reached into his pack with the other. In it, he had a tranquilizer shot, which he carried with him in case he stumbled onto an injured animal, or in case one of his aunt's bulls decided to go crazy. He popped the top off of it and slowly raised it out of the bag. The horse still stared at him, and young Joe heard the voice in his head again. "I know what you're up to, and it isn't going to work." Holding the rope ever so tightly, he slowly approached the horse, talking to it ever so softly. The horse reared up its front legs and began lunging at him. Then, from out of the bag on the horse's side, something fell out, and the horse stopped immediately, turned and looked at the fallen object, then went crazy trying to get it. Young Joe held on to the rope with all his might as the horse went absolutely berserk. Then something odd started to happen. Smoke started rising out of the object. Young Joe was able to steer himself around to the object, much to the dismay of the horse, to see that the object was some sort of torch, and it appeared to be lighting itself. Suddenly, a blue flame appeared, producing a lot of smoke. As the blue smoke rose, it seemed to be forming something. As the horse calmed down, young Joe watched the smoke create the figure of a beautiful woman. She stood only about 2 feet tall, but young Joe could tell by the way she was dressed that she must be from the tribe. She turned to him, and much to his astonishment, she began to speak. "Help me, Kobe Rambiashi." Then she turned and reached out towards something. The smoke puffed and repeated the message. "Help me, Kobe Rambiashi." Puff. Then again, and again, and again. Young Joe watched the message several times, as did the horse. "She's beautiful." The horse seemed to agree. Then the fire went out and the smoke disappeared. Young Joe and the horse both looked at each other, then jumped towards the torch. Young Joe got it first, so the horse tried to bite him. Young Joe couldn't believe it. The horse was actually attacking him for possession of the torch. "Whoa, whoa, 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 boy," he said, dropping the rope and backing away. "I don't think so. This lady seems to be in trouble. I need to show it to somebody who can help." The horse pushed forward and knocked young Joe to the ground. It then stood over him, and once again it seemed to communicate to him through his eyes. "You will give me that torch and allow me to finish my mission, or you will die." Young Joe tried to scramble backwards, but the horse put its hoof on his stomach. "Don't make me hurt you. Give me the torch or else." Okay. I'll give you the torch. Just let me up." The horse removed his hoof, and young Joe slowly got up. He walked hesitantly around to the bag which the torch fell out of, and the horse followed his every move. Then young Joe stabbed the horse with the needle and injected the tranquilizing fluid into it. The horse jumped in surprise. Young Joe quickly removed the needle and took off running as fast as he could. Kenneth gave chase. He knew he shouldn't have trusted that lousy human. When he caught him, he was going to bite his hands off along with a few other things. He jumped over some bushes and was gaining on the human when suddenly he didn't feel so good. He fought as hard as he could to keep running as fastest, but something was wrong. He just couldn't move anymore. He stopped, watching the human run off with the thing his lovely princess had entrusted to him. He had failed her. As his legs gave out from under him, he battled his eyelids to keep them up as long as possible so he could watch the direction the human was running. "I will not fail." "I will not fail." These words rang through Princess Natalie's head as she awoke from an unpleasant sleep. What a night she had. After she and her entourage had been arrested, they were loaded on the backs of these miniature motorized vehicles, which went surprisingly fast. And those corporation drivers were not the best drivers, weaving in and out, barely missing each other. It was like they were trying to beat each other back. "Last one back is a rotten egg," kept running through her mind as she did what she could to keep the bugs from getting in her mouth. As they approached Techland, they were blindfolded, as to not see their secret entrance, she supposed. Then she was loaded into her cell and locked away. She took off the blindfold only to find that she was in pitch-black darkness. Stumbling around looking for some place to sit, she remembered saying aloud, "Whoever designed this place should have their head examined." The cell was narrow and short, and down the center was what she soon discovered to be a row of seats which you had to fold down to sit on. The problem was, after you got one to go down, you had to sit in it real fast, or boing, up it went. It was like it was spring-loaded. The second she let go of the seat, or stood up, boing, the doggone thing flipped right up again. She would have to feel around to find it again and put it down. Needless to say, she was getting very upset, and trying to get a bunch of them to go down to make a bed was enough to make her wish they would just kill her. But now it was light, and her surroundings weren't as dark. She stood up, boing, went all the seats, and she let out a little laugh. Now that she could see, it was kind of funny. Their center row had seats on both sides, facing towards these little windows. She looked out one of the windows and came face to face with a mermaid. She did a double take, closing her eyes and shaking her head. She looked out again, and the mermaid was still there. She was underwater in some sort of submarine. "Well, this is great," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. "I am underwater, separated from my friends, with seats that will not stay down, and my only companion is a stupid mermaid." For the first time since the whole plan began, she thought maybe she had made a mistake. "How could I have been so stupid?" she said to herself as she pulled down one of the seats and sat down in a huff. Her thinking was that she had the easy end of the deal. Many people had worked long and hard to see the plan come together. It wasn't easy to sneak someone out of some place like Techland. The blasted place was said to be so advanced that they had indoor plumbing. That thought made her look around for some place to... there was no place. Boy, am I in trouble. When she heard of the plan, she couldn't believe it. A group had been formed to help the corporation's super genius escape the clutches of the evil corporation, which was making him design weapons of destruction. She volunteered herself to be the one that would actually meet him as he left, give him a horse and an escort, then act as a decoy. And her story was a good one. She was acting on behalf of her people to meet with those in Merchant Valley. And besides, they wouldn't do anything drastic to Princess Natalie, daughter of the great Chief Isaacs and heir to his mighty reign. She figured they would question her if they caught her, then let her go, especially if Captain Hobogon arrived with his troops. But she was wrong all the way around. And not only was she in danger, but she had no idea where her friends were, or if they had even succeeded and the man got away. "Well," she said to the mermaid, "this definitely was not part of the plan." "And what plan might that be?" a voice came from above her. She stood up, boing, and looked at the ceiling. It seemed to be opening up. As it did, it formed a type of staircase. Down slowly came a figure dressed in black boots, black slacks, a black polo shirt, a black turtleneck, a black cape, black gloves, a black fedora hat, and black sunglasses. He stood at the bottom of the stairs, hands on his hips, giving the princess an evil smile. The princess examined him. "Dressed for summer, are you?" "Your sense of humor will not save you now, my dear princess," he said in a deep voice. "Tell me where you have hidden the professor, and no harm will come to you or your friends." "I do not know what you are talking about, Mr. Fashion Statement, but I am heir to the reign of..." "I know who you are." "Then you have the advantage." He smiled again, then began walking towards her. "I am Agent Clayton." "Clayton?" the princess said. "Like Clayton from the..." "I represent the chairman of the corporation," he said, cutting her off. "And you, my dear, will never reign anything if you do not follow the parameters set forth by me. You are simply a template to a greater scheme to undermine the matrix of our chairman. And I suggest you cooperate, for the ramifications of not doing so will be catastrophic." The princess just looked at him. "Could you try saying that again in a language that I might understand?" "You," he continued, now face to face with her, "will tell me what you have done with our defector, or you will pay a severe price." "You," she answered, "will promise to brush your teeth before you ever stand this close to me again." She backed away from him. "I don't care. Your petty attacks on me mean nothing," he said as a strange smile formed on his face. He was staring intently at her, trying to use his ability, but nothing was happening. He knew it was a long shot. The tribespeople still had too much spirit in them. He would have to use another means to influence her to give him the information he needed. He turned away. "However, your friends will have to pay for your insolence." "Wait a minute," the princess said. He stopped and turned towards her. "I do not know what you believe we did, but we were on a peaceful mission to the Merchant Valley. You see, I represent the tribe and the people from the town, which is where I was coming from, in negotiations with the people of Merchant Valley. The shopkeepers there want us to make deliveries only at night, which is totally unfeasible for us. It would mean having to change our schedule completely, and we just cannot afford to. Princess, Agent Clayton interrupted. I really don't care. You're part of an illegal alliance and a danger to our land. If you do not cooperate, you and your friends will pay the price. You will never get away with this, she said, even though she knew it sounded hokey. I'm just saying, Agent Clayton said, shrugging his shoulders as he left her cell. No! Well, if you didn't have a big nose, we interrupt this episode again for a little more commentary. Those last two scenes that you heard, guess what? They were OG scenes. They were originals.
Typical OGs. You're going to have to get into that at some point.
Yeah, but not now. They were very early on in the original story. Anyways, they, obviously get pushed back as the story grew and developed. So now, interesting thing about the interrogation scene between Agent Clayton and Princess Natalie is that originally that was Agent Clayton's first appearance in the lands. And that's why it describes him as being like all in all black, and just like some other famous, some other bad guy that we know who's in all black. Obviously, I wanted to have some similarities with that bad guy, but Agent Clayton is nothing like him. But that interrogation scene was his first one, so everything that we have heard before with Agent Clayton was something that was written later. And like I said, the one with the breakers was because I wanted some sort of action in that scene. And I thought that was a good way to introduce him and his abilities. So, and then young Joe, that scene as well with Kenneth was very early on, and the idea of young Joe being a marathon runner and running around.
Is he the young hero?
Maybe. And does
Kenneth come back and kick his?
No, Kenneth. He might come back. You're gonna have to keep listening, but he doesn't. Well, you'll find out what Kenneth does. He ain't none too happy about what young Joe has taken from him. You won't have to. He just looks at him and you hear him in your head. So which I kind of think is neat.
Teleconnected.
Telekinetic. So yeah, those are original scenes, and they start the whole young Joe storyline, which is also very, very cool storyline. So a lot of things are
OG
starting.
storyline.
It is an OG storyline, as a matter of fact. Yeah. It is one of the original storylines. But it starts it, and then you're also getting this introduction of Princess Natalie, more so from when she was captured to now where she's in her little underwater prison. Yeah. So there you go. Well, we still have some more scenes, so hey, let's get to it. All right, a 1 and a 2, and away we go. Open the book. King Michael entered his bedroom with a smile on his face. Queen Michelle, hearing him come in, opened her eyes and flashed him a smile. "Well, it's good to see a smile on your face for once," she said to him. "Good news?" "Pretty good news," he answered. "The tunneling project is progressing nicely." He leaned over her and gave her a kiss. "They're hoping to reach the big white mountain in a couple of days." "Well, that's great," she said, sitting up in bed, not real excited by the news. "But then what? You have a tiny tunnel that no army can fit through. What good will that do?" "We'll at least know what is going on over there. They wanted that mountain for a reason. I know it. If we can find out why, we may have a better chance of getting more of the lands on our side to get it back." "Dear, we've discussed this. That mountain is a huge liability. We really don't need to." "It's ours!" he yelled. "We never should have given it up. I'll tell you this, if the Gang of Five were around, they would have never let this happen." His outburst surprised him as much as it did her. He took a deep breath. I'm sorry, my love, but yes, I know it is a liability, and I understand that we do not need it, but I love that mountain. When I was young, my father and I would climb it together. The view from the top, to be able to see all the lands, I'm telling you, there is nothing like it. He climbed into bed and sat next to her. And one day, hopefully soon, I'll take you up there. I regret we never did it before. He sat still. She noticed his demeanor start to change. He came in so happy, but now the frown lines on his forehead were starting to show again. Jerry and I went up there so many times. I guess I didn't take you because it reminded me so much of her. Maybe that's why you hate the fact that you lost it. She moved over to him and gave him a hug, and then flashed him a smile. It's just one more thing you love that you've lost. She kissed him on the forehead. We'll get it back, and we'll have a picnic on top of it to celebrate. How's that sound? He met her smile with one of his own. It's a date. Now I have something to look forward to. He looked into her eyes. I do love your smile. Their embrace led to a long, passionate kiss, and more. The governor of Orleans walked the streets of his city almost every morning, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He loved his city, loved his job, and loved the lands. He was a big man, standing 6'4" and hefty. He looked like a bear and had the deep voice to go with it. He was very jovial, like Santa Claus, but without the white hair and beard. It was hard to find anyone who did not like the governor. In fact, he had been in office for decades, primarily because very few people ran against him. He was just a laid-back, easygoing, everything is going to be all right type guy. He fit perfect into the persona of Orleans. He came out from one of the side streets and stopped to admire the River of Wonder. The dawning sun was allowing the sky to reflect itself in the still waters. The northern part of the river still reflected the stars. In the distance, more towards the Western Territories, the deer were getting their fill of water. Everything was waking up to a new morning, and Orleans was just about done with cleaning up from the night before. The governor stood there, lost in the beauty, when a young man walked up behind him. Not sure what to do, the young man just stood there waiting for the governor to acknowledge him. He too wanted to get lost in the beauty of it all, but he had a job to finish and needed the governor to help him do it. He cleared his throat. Nothing. He did it again, this time a little louder. The governor still just stood there. Finally, he cleared his throat in a very exaggerated way. The governor started laughing. He had a distinctive laugh, low, deep, and hearty. If there was nothing else, the governor loved to laugh. Oh, Charlie, you crack me up. I knew you were there all along, but you're just so funny, clearing your throat like that. Well, Charlie said with nervous laughter, you looked so engrossed in the river, I wasn't sure if you wanted to be disturbed. Oh, Charlie, you have permission to disturb me any time. I know you'll only bother me when it's your job to bother me. Yes, sir. So, what's the morning report? Charlie looked at his clipboard. We'll be all cleaned up and ready to go on time. The pirates were relatively quiet last night, so there was no plundering. Just the normal cleanup required in most of the city. There were some reports of noises coming from the old plantation house. Oh, what aren't there strange noises coming from the old plantation house? The governor responded. Charlie answered in agreement with some nervous laughter. Well, did you go check it out? Oh, no. I don't go near that place. The governor let out another big laugh. Oh, you're a smart man, Charlie. He patted Charlie on the back. Anything else? Well, there were a few very minimal disturbances. There was an argument on a departing killboat. An inebriated patron fell down the club steps, but no injuries. And there were some minor incidences involving Mad Dog. The governor didn't want to act like he was concerned, but he was.
Any injuries?
No, but apparently guys were thrown into the river.
Oh, Drake.
Minor disturbances outside of and in the casino of River's Edge Terrace, but that was it.
Well, it all sounds good. Is Mad Dog still around?
Yes, sir. He's staying at the Hotel Orleans.
Very good, very good. Good work as usual, young man, and someday you will have my job and you'll probably do it better than me.
Oh, no, I don't think anyone will ever do your job better than you, Charlie responded. He was always embarrassed whenever he was recognized for doing a good job, and the governor knew it. That was why he loved saying it to him. Also, he said it because Charlie did do a good job, and he really did believe that Charlie would be governor one day.
Well, it's a new day, the governor said with his booming voice. Let's make the best of it.
He patted Charlie on the back and walked towards the Café d'Orleans.
Let's keep the spirit alive.
Charlie just stood there, his workday almost complete, and now was able to appreciate the beauty of the river. The young man lay curled up in a ball, surrounded by the brightness and pained by the intense ringing. He could tell that he was no longer on the table in Queen Kwan's storeroom. It felt as though he was laying on the ground. He was still cold, and the bump on his head was throbbing. He had his hands over his ears and his eyes closed, but it didn't seem to help with the ringing or the brightness. He just wanted it all to stop. Then he felt a slight breeze begin to kick up. The young man opened his eyes to see that it wasn't as bright. He then uncovered his ears and breathed a sigh of relief as the ringing subsided. He noticed it began to get darker as the breeze was getting stronger. He glanced around and thought he recognized the place. He was laying in the dirt in what had been referred to as Hubland. How did I end up here? He thought to himself. He tried to stand but couldn't. He closed his eyes in frustration. I'm getting tired of all this, he said. To his surprise, when he opened his eyes, a mouse was sitting in front of him, staring at him. The wind swirled around them both, kicking up the dirt. The mouse seemed to be talking to him, but the young man couldn't hear anything. Then the mouse stood, turned, and started walking away. As it did, the wind seemed to calm around it. He wasn't sure how he knew, but the young man felt he had to follow the mouse. He tried to stand, but the wind wouldn't let him, so he crawled. He crawled on the dirt, following the little mouse. And he could swear that the mouse was saying something to him, but he just couldn't make out what it was saying. The mouse came to a stop at the base of what appeared to be a statue of a man. He recognized that statue. It was one of the last things he'd saw before passing out. Who is that? He tried to scream, but came out as a whimper. The mouse sat down in front of the base of the statue. The young man looked around and realized they were not alone. Standing around them were 4 figures in robes. The wind had picked up, and it was getting harder for him to keep his eyes open. He looked back to the mouse, who was saying something, but he just couldn't hear it. I can't hear you, he yelled as loud as he could, but it was barely audible. Then a booming voice was heard. It was deep and loud and very authoritative. Trust the process! And it scared the man so much he jumped and opened his eyes and sat straight up on the table. He came face to face with 2 smiling faces, Captain Hobogon and Queen Kwan. This startled him so much that he laid right back down on the table and stared at the ceiling. He brought his hand to his forehead, closed his eyes, and mumbled to himself, Trust what process, stupid little mouse? Thank you for visiting the land. We hope you come visit us again soon.
Gee, mama.
Jeez, don't be reading over my shoulder like that.
I read slow.
Well, that's part 1 of the morning report done. So was our special edition of episode 8. Just to recap a little bit, King Michael got some good.
He got some.
No, he got some good news. And we
Big mouth.
saw that Merle is out and about. So that's kind of interesting. Young man is starting to come around in the storeroom.
Get over his hangover.
No, we don't know why he is the way he is, but we'll probably find out. We have Agent Clayton killing Ambassador Bradley and also interrogating Princess Natalie. And then you meet young Joe and you meet the governor and Charlie. So a lot happens there in episode 8 of the morning report, part 1. Tim, what did you like about it? What did you like about episode 8? Anything come out, splash out to you, say, hey, look, this is great.
I like the theme song.
The theme song. The one thing I didn't write is what Tim likes. All right. Good for him.
Didn't come from your head.
No, sure didn't. Hey, we want to thank the American Wake again for allowing us to use it. If you want to know more about it, listen to the regular version of episode 8. I talk a lot about, or just talk about a little bit about how we got that song. So, yeah, things are starting to move along in Murph Storytime now. If I can get people to listen to it, more than 10, that'd be
All
nice.
6 of you.
No, there's 10, Tim. There's 10. All right.
I'm not that smart.
I only need 965 more people to subscribe. Hey, moving on up
We're
there, right?
moving on.
So please, if you haven't done so, subscribe, leave comments, like, all that good stuff. Because otherwise, I'll just keep doing this then.
Oh, God.
If you want me to stop, then hit subscribe, and I need 2,800 more minutes of listening, or hours of listening, or whatever it is. So,
Gift it to somebody.
Gift it to somebody. Tell someone, look, I'm going to send you this story to listen to. I'm going to wrap it up with a little bow on it. It'll be very pretty. But yeah, gift it along. There you go. So anyways, we appreciate Tim. Little bro Tim, I want to thank you for helping me out here with this commentary. I hope you all have enjoyed it. And that you will come back and listen again. Episode 9 should be premiering soon. So yeah, there you go. There you have it.
Do you have any messages from any of the citizens?
No. I read the message at the end of episode 8, the regular version of episode 8. I read.
Well, then what's this?
That's the message I read. Okay, Tim. That's a message from the governor I read at the end of episode 8, the regular one.
It?
No, if you want to hear that, you can listen. It's at the end of the regular episode.
I'm going to read it then.
You're not going to read it, Tim.
Hello!
Don't read it.
It's the governor. I hope you're.
You mean that? Do it, Rick. Do it right. Hello, it's the governor. I hope you're enjoying your visit to the lands. If so, make sure you hit like and be sure to subscribe. and remember to turn on your notifications. You don't want to miss the next morning report, do you? Now, if you didn't enjoy it, keep it to yourself. or just let me know what you didn't like it, and I'll have Charlie take care of it. Or I'll have Drake take care of you. Either one of those. Well, no, we'll have Charlie take care of it. Anyways, I sure hope you come back and visit us again. There's always something happening in the land, Until we meet again, keep the spirit alive. Is that what you wanted to hear, Tim?
I wanted.
All right, there you go.
And they wanted.
And they want, sure, all 10 of you.
I got your back.
Well, thanks again for listening. Thank you, little bro Tim, for joining us. Like the governor said, keep the spirit alive, and
We'll holla at you.
we'll holler at ya. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.